Hi. Well, I thought I'd give some of my views on the war that I'm waiting for and I have predicted. And I want to first by start saying, because I'm going to say something that I don't want you to think that I'm making a political judgment here. Um, my feeling is the Democrats and the Republicans are the same in that they listen to the same people, the same wealthy, powerful people, but they have different messages for the public to get elected. So they're all really the same, and none of them could give a rat's ass about, you know, the public. Anyway, so Biden was the worst president in my lifetime, believe it or not. Even with what Trump's done the past year, to me, he was the worst. I won't go into that, but I will just say that I'd say that his administration, all the decisions were bad decisions. So when I watched him do everything, everything was a bad decision. Trump, on the other hand, keeps making the wrong decision. So every decision that I see the Trump administration make, it's the wrong decision. And it's a toss up, which is worse. And this is going to be important a little bit later, though I have mentioned this before. I still believe the U.S. must attack something in the Middle East before the Armada returns, because if it doesn't, the U.S. has effectively turned control of the Middle East over to China, its biggest customer. China is the biggest customer of Middle Eastern oil. And I remember back when the U.S. attacked Iraq, somebody had wrote the reason the U.S. Went into Iraq to get China, to get the Middle East to behave itself was because it didn't want China to move in. And I believe there's a lot to it, and I never see it in the press. Did you ever? I mean, think about it. How often do you see in the press where the press says China's dependency on the Middle East for oil is such a big problem, it has to do this or that. It's never framed in that way. And I think I find that interesting. Anyways, as you know, I have many complex geopolitical reasons why I believe the U.S. will attack. And again, my biggest reason, which I think is like funny, is in the past 12 months, every decision that could be made by the U.S. has been wrong. So this would be the wrong. I also feel, and I know this sounds weird, but in some ways, life does match fiction, or fiction matches life in a way. And if you really look at Trump's whole arc, he's just an ignoramus, right? I mean, he's just he's a very clever person in selling. He's like the world's greatest salesman, for sure. I mean, I can't take that away from him. He's entertaining. He's funny. He's a great salesman. Again, great salesman. But he's, business-wise, yeah, he's just a dope. And you can just see that eventually it's going to get the best of him. Like, he's not going to be able to sweet talk his way out of something. And I don't think he's going to be able to talk his way out of this issue that he has the whole armada in Iran, or near Iran, and he can't easily back out. Though again, I think he's senile. He has dementia now. He's not really involved. But what amount he is involved, I think he just doesn't know what to do. He just can't see his way clear. In his first term, he was definitely anti-war. And I had predicted that beforehand. And because he's just a narcissist, he doesn't want the generals up there on the stage hugging all the limelight. So I want to talk about Putin made every blunder imaginable in the invasion of Ukraine. Like, everything that could go wrong went wrong. Yet he's still here, and Russia still has the territory it wants in Ukraine. So you might think the lesson to the U.S. and China is not to invade a country. But it's not. After 4 years, I think the lesson is no matter how badly you screwed up, you can still make it work for you if you stay committed. And I believe this is the argument that pro-attack Iran hawks in the U.S., whatever, will stay. They'll say, okay, yes, I know they can probably take out some ships. I know we don't have enough missiles and whatever. But if we're not going to do it now, then we're never going to do it. We might as well just close up shop and just sell everything off, right? So, I mean, there's no way out of it. So I think that many in the U.S. will say, yes, I know we're going to take a beating, but we'll recover. It'll take a few years, but like Russia, we'll get smart and we'll recover. Another reason why I think that Ukraine, bizarrely enough, I think argues for an attack and a war. Because again, Russia might collapse tomorrow, but it hasn't today, and today becomes tomorrow, and then the day after, and the day after that. And I'm sure if the U.S. attacks Iran, it will lose a lot, but Europe will eventually get behind it, and the war will last years. So, Americans will get used to casualties, just like the Russians, Ukrainians, Palestinians, Israeli. Really, I don't see and I point this out all the time. If the U.S. public can basically, most of them, not all of them, not the young ones, right? Most everybody else can just ignore that our weapons are dropped on people that have no way of getting out of, a few mile square territory and just, destroying all their buildings, right, and their universities and their hospitals, then why would they really care if Americans get killed in some war far away? I don't think that they will. A lot is made about like the U.S. won't put boots on the ground, like Biden was always not going to put boots on the ground. Trump is the same thing. But I think like once it, that's broken, once that starts to happen, nobody's going to care anymore. They're just not going to care, sadly. The other thing I think, there are other events going on which I find fascinating. So in China, apparently the top two generals were taken down. They're either assassinated or taken prison. It's a very complex thing when I follow the experts I follow on China. And what's interesting is almost no news about it in the papers. And I believe there's definitely something to it. I mean, I think it's almost a fact that these two generals have disappeared in China, and yet I don't see anything in the New York Times about it. Because I think that the press today is so shrunken up. They don't have, stringers and people all over the place. I don't even know how much the CIA has people in China. We just don't know. And anyway, it's fascinating because basically China is in sort of a civil war right now, from what I can understand, where the military is not happy that their top generals are taken out. And so I think what they're doing is they're parading, because there are lots of videos of all this equipment moving to Beijing. I think what the military is doing is saying, let's put everything out there on the highway. Let them see that we're watching this. We're not stupid. Like, we're not just going to sit by while one of our generals gets taken out, right? We're going to parade all our machine and maybe we will attack you. You're going to have to guess. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Xi Jinping to get rid of him. I don't know what that would mean, but it's fascinating. Anyway, I think most people recognize that China is not wouldn't be able to attack Taiwan or do anything with it because they're in a big internal struggle. And it'll probably be the same thing in this Palestinian thing. Then the final thing is I just watched a video of Cenk Uygur, who's the founder of the Young Turks, and Tucker Carlson, and they were talking about how they had trouble, both of them, and many friends that they had, that the kids couldn't get into schools because they or somebody they were married to had a sort of a not a pro-Israel stance. And they're both talking about how, like, if when you went up to that person, you said, hey, what's the story? I'm not like anti-Israel. The person would say, yeah, but you said this thing, and I'm afraid of you, so I don't really want you here or whatever. They're just talking about something that was talked about in private under the breath for a while, but now is out in the open. And I do believe that Tucker Carlson, in his anti-Israel shift away from the Fox News, let's just say, or the standard Republicans, I believe they are all going to follow him. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think it's definitely been a sea change where I don't want to say Jewish or Zionist or whatever, but you know what I'm talking about, that they are sort of out of power. So you have these two things. You have basically, and the Epstein files is really going to, because even when think about it. If there's any other sort of nationality where Harvey Weinstein, right, was caught, like if there's another nationality, you'd hear a lot about it, but you never hear, oh, well, it's sort of a weird coincidence that all these people, are Jewish. You never hear that. And though I think you would with other people, you talk about it, but it hasn't. But I think that's breaking. And I think it's a very, you have that. So they are now going to feel very threatened. And as I pointed out before, the Republicans, I think they're going to get decimated in these midterm elections because of everything that's going on. So they're getting worried. So I think that the people who want to attack Iran will have some wind at their back, and that there are many forces behind them that are like anything but finding out the true number of dead and injured and tortured in Israel, right? Anything but the Epstein files and Republicans acting badly, right? Anything but ICE. So you have all this, a weakening superpower. Again, I just don't see how it doesn't happen, but we shall see. Anyway, that's what I'm thinking today on February 1st. Hope you're well. Look forward to your comments if you have any. Bye.